They gave me a suitcase on my birthday and told me to get out. After 2 years of paying their bills, sacrificing my dreams, and being used by the people who claimed to love me, they tossed me out like I was nothing. But what didn't they? No, that suitcase wouldn't be the end of my story. It would be the beginning of their reckoning. My name is Anna. I'm 27 years old, and for the past 2 years, I've been living with my parents and younger sister, but not by choice. This isn't a story about a lazy millennial moving back home because adulting got too hard. This is a story about sacrifice, misplaced trust, and the price of love. When I graduated from college, I couldn't wait to begin my independent life. I found a modest one-bedroom apartment on the edge of town that fit my entry-level marketing salary and moved out of my parents' house. It wasn't glamorous creaky floors, occasional plumbing issues, and a noisy upstairs neighbor who practiced drums at 10 p.m., but it was mine. Well, rented, but you know what I mean. I packed lunches, drove my old Honda Civic, shopped thrift stores, and budgeted every cent. I wasn't struggling, I was strategizing, saving for a future I believed in. Every time my bank account grew, I felt stronger, more in control. My younger sister Lily couldn't have been more different. 6 years my junior, she was 17 when I left, and the golden child in our family. While I worked part-time jobs during college, Lily enjoyed designer handbags, the newest phone models, and full access to my parents' newer car. My Sunday dinners at home were always punctuated by her taunts about my budget-conscious wardrobe and lifestyle. "Oh my God, is that the same sweater from your Facebook photo 3 years ago?" She'd sneer. "I like it. Still in good shape." I'd reply, forcing a smile. She'd toss her hair and turn to Mom and Dad for approval. They never corrected her. If anything, they looked amused. "Just teasing," they'd say. Harmless. I let it go. I was focused on my goals, on my future. I spent those years growing professionally. I earned a promotion, mastered new skills, and developed close friendships that didn't revolve around flashy nights out. We had cozy movie nights, weekend hikes, and coffee shop meetups. It wasn't flashy, but it was real. Everything changed after my 25th birthday. That Sunday dinner was off. Dad barely touched his food. Mom's eyes were red and puffy. Even Lily was subdued, silently scrolling her phone without the usual shopping bag display. When we sat down to eat, the silence felt like static in the air. Halfway through dinner, Dad cleared his throat and looked at me. "Anna, we need to talk," he said. Mom reached for his hand. "I lost my job last week," he said. "The company's downsizing." I put down my fork. "I'm so sorry. We don't know how we're going to manage," Mom said. "Lily's tuition starts next month. The mortgage, the utilities." Her voice trailed off, eyes glassy with desperation. I knew what was coming. "Anna," Mom said, "we hate to ask, but could you move back home? Just until your father finds work. If you contribute financially, we can keep up with Lily's tuition and the house." It felt like someone punched me in the gut. Give up my apartment? My independence? My savings goals? But they were my family. Their faces were pleading. I didn't have the heart to say no. "How much would you need?" I asked, heart sinking. $180 a month, Mom said quickly. That would cover Lily's tuition and help with bills. It was nearly everything I was putting into savings. But I said yes. They hugged me. They thanked me. They called me a hero. Even Lily gave me a genuine smile. 2 weeks later, I moved back into my childhood room, now stuffed with Lily's overflow wardrobe. Most of my furniture went into storage. My pale blue walls and tiny twin bed greeted me like a time capsule. That first night, I reminded myself this was temporary. A few months at most. Dad would find a new job. I would bounce back. The first few months were okay. Mom made my favorite dinners. Dad praised me. I set up automatic transfers to send the $1,800 on the first of each month. Painful, but for the greater good. Then things started to change. Dad got a new job, but his salary wasn't what they'd hoped. They asked me to continue contributing just for a bit longer. I agreed. What else could I do? But the gratitude faded. Mom complained about how long I took in the bathroom. My baths, my only luxury, became selfish in their eyes. Meals shifted to Lily's favorites. I started covering small extras, 40 for dad's gas, $100 for mom's hair appointment. None of it came back. Meanwhile, Lily's lifestyle didn't change. New shoes, a smartwatch, expensive cosmetics. I finally asked where the money was coming from. Mind your business, she snapped one Friday night. Exhausted from a hellish work week, I came home to find Lily waiting for me. I need 700, she said brightly. We're going to the beach next weekend. Everyone's already paid but me. You think I'm just going to give you 700? I asked. You don't spend money on anything else, she said. God, you're so stingy. Something inside me cracked. No, I said, rising. It's not just money. It's my money. The money I work hard for. Maybe if you got a job like I did, you'd understand. She burst into tears. Loud, theatrical sobs. Within seconds, Mom and Dad were in the room. Anna called me lazy and entitled. Lily sobbed. Is that true? Dad asked. She demanded $700 for a trip. I said calmly. I told her no. How dare you speak to your sister that way? Mom snapped. Your house that I'm helping pay for. I snapped back. There it is, Mom said, always throwing money in our faces. I looked at their faces angry, judgmental, blind to the truth. I went to my room and sat on my bed, shaking. That night was the turning point. I started watching more closely, noticing things. Restaurant receipts in Dad's pants pockets. Lily's new gadgets. Their aunt visits were probably dinners out. My money was funding their comfort while I drove a car that wheezed and wore sweaters from high school. Time passed. 6 months. A year. 18 months. Every time I mentioned moving out, a new crisis popped up. Car trouble, leaking roof, tuition increase. I was trapped, and they no longer even pretended to appreciate me. Then came my 27th birthday. I hoped, despite everything, they'd acknowledge it. That evening, I walked in to see them around the table, a big box wrapped with a bow in the center. There she is, Mom said with a forced smile. The birthday girl. I set down the modest cake I'd bought myself. What's that? I asked, nodding at the box. Your birthday present, Dad said. Go on, open it. Inside was a sleek, expensive suitcase. Wow. Are we going somewhere? I asked, confused. They laughed. Not kindly. You sure are, Dad said. We want you to pack your things, Mom said. And leave. Tomorrow. What? We're kicking you out, Lily chimed in. I need my closet back, Dad shrugged. We don't need your money anymore. I got promoted 6 months ago. I was speechless. You've been lying to me. Consider it payback, Dad said. We raised you, remember? I looked at them. Strangers. I went to my room, not crying, just quiet, cold, clear. The next morning, I packed my few belongings into the suitcase and a couple of boxes, called a ride, left. They didn't say goodbye. As the car pulled away, I didn't look back. I was done. The hostel was nothing fancy, 4 bunks to a room, communal bathrooms, and the ever-present smell of detergent and reheated soup wafting from the shared kitchen, but it was a roof over my head, and for the first time in what felt like forever, the space around me wasn't wrapped in judgment or conditional kindness. It was mine, however temporary. I spent the first night curled up on the bottom bunk with my suitcase at my side and tears I didn't want anyone to hear soaking the pillow. But under the sorrow, there was something else brewing. Determination. My family may have tossed me aside, but I still had my job, my sanity, and a second chance to rebuild. The next morning, I walked the city with blistered feet, viewing 6 tiny apartments before settling on a studio that was so small you could touch both walls if you stretched out your arms. But it was clean, secure, and barely affordable. I signed the lease and moved in by the end of the week. It wasn't much. A mattress on the floor, a thrifted desk, and secondhand kitchenware from a donation center. But each item I placed in the space whispered one truth louder and louder. I was free. I blocked my parents' numbers. I stopped checking for texts from Lily. And I dove headfirst into work. I stayed late, volunteered for projects others ran from, and when my manager asked if I'd like to lead the next digital campaign for a major account, I said yes without hesitation. The extra effort paid off. Within weeks, I earned a modest raise. Within months, I was shortlisted for a leadership training program. And as my confidence grew, so did my savings. With the $1,800 no longer bleeding out each month, my bank balance began to climb again like a long dormant heartbeat restarting. I still lived frugally, more out of habit than necessity. But now, every dollar saved was for me, not Lily's tuition or my parents' dinners at upscale restaurants. By the time 6 months had passed, I was in a rhythm. My routine was tight, my calendar fuller than ever, and my emotional wounds, while far from healed, had at least scabbed over. Then came the phone call. It was a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to pick up. Hello? A familiar voice. Sweet, manipulative. Anna, it's Mom. I froze. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. What do you want? I asked flatly. Don't be like that, sweetie, she said, sugary as ever. We need to talk. Can you come over to the house? It's important. No? Say what you need to say now. She paused, then sighed dramatically. Your father lost his job again. Another round of layoffs. We're struggling, Anna. Behind on payments. The bank, they're threatening foreclosure. My silence was pointed out. We need your help, she finally said. Just until we get back on our feet, like before. I laughed. Cold, bitter. You're joking. No, she said softly. We made a mistake. We were stressed. You know your father's temper. We all say things we don't mean. I meant what I said when I walked out. I'm not moving back. Not now. Not ever. But we're your family, she said. You should have remembered that before you kicked me out on my birthday. I snapped. Before you took my money and lied about needing it. Goodbye, Mom. I hung up before she could respond. Over the next week, I received calls from multiple numbers, emails, even a letter pushed under my apartment door. It was the letter that chilled me most. Because I never gave them my address, the next escalation came in the form of a legal notice. An email from someone claiming to be a lawyer representing my parents. They were demanding $24,000 rent for the 2 years I had lived in their home. I nearly deleted it. But something about the format and legal signature looked legitimate. A quick online search confirmed it was a real attorney. My panic rose. Then, I remembered James. We'd gone to college together. He'd graduated from law school a few years ago. I reached out, and we met for coffee. I showed him the email. He laughed. They're bluffing. This is harassment, and I'll handle it for free. James drafted the perfect response. Cold, professional, and legally devastating. He acknowledged their claim and then listed every bank transaction, $1,800 a month for 2 years, totaling $43,200. If your clients wish to pursue litigation, the letter concluded, my client is prepared to file a counterclaim for the full amount paid, plus damages and legal fees. 3 days later, the lawyer replied, my clients will not be pursuing this matter further. Just like that, it ended. The calls stopped. The emails vanished. The letters ceased. My family disappeared from my life. I heard bits and pieces through mutual relatives. Dad couldn't find work. They sold a car to cover Lily's final tuition installment. Creditors were hounding them. The house was close to foreclosure. A year ago, I would have rushed in to save them. Now, I felt nothing. Not hate. Not even satisfaction. Just nothing. Distant pity, maybe. The kind you reserve for strangers in tragic news headlines. I kept going. Quietly, steadily. I got another promotion. Moved into a slightly bigger apartment. Started dating someone kind, grounded, and emotionally available. I enrolled in a home buyer program and placed a deposit on a modest townhouse. Then, on the anniversary of my move-out day, I stood in my empty studio one last time, sunlight spilling across the bare floor, and whispered aloud, this is the day I saved myself. And with that, I closed the door behind me. Moving into the townhouse felt like the first chapter of a new book. It wasn't a grand place. It had creaky floors, a faucet that leaked slightly, and a few stubborn stains in the carpet that wouldn't come out no matter how hard I scrubbed. But it was mine. The lease had my name on it. The key fits my hand. No one could take it from me on a whim. The first night I slept there, I lay in the dark and listened to the quiet. No footsteps outside my door. No muffled arguments through thin walls. No Lily, laughing at my expense. It was eerie at first, but I welcomed the silence. At work, things continued to move upward. My name was being mentioned in executive meetings. A client I'd managed from the start signed a multi-year contract. My boss, Elaine, invited me to lunch, not for feedback, but to ask if I'd consider moving into a senior strategist role. It came with more responsibility, but also a 35% raise. Yes, I said immediately, and meant it. I was slowly building a new life, one rooted in choices I had made, not sacrifices I had been guilted into. But healing, I learned, isn't linear. On a Thursday morning in early spring, I was heading to the subway when I saw her, Lily. She was standing across the street from my building, dressed in a designer coat, her eyes rimmed red as if she'd been crying for hours. My heart dropped into my stomach. I froze. She saw me, waved. I considered walking away, turning back, pretending I hadn't noticed her. But something in her posture stopped me. She looked smaller, hollow. I crossed. Anna, she said, her voice trembling. I folded my arms. How did you find me? I asked Aunt Carla. She said she shouldn't have told me, but I begged. Why? Lily hesitated, then pulled something from her purse, a folded letter. She handed it to me. It's from Mom. She's in the hospital. She wanted you to have this. My chest tightened. I stared at the letter but didn't unfold it. Is she okay? She had a mild stroke, Lily said, eyes welling up. They think it was stress-related. Dad's been drinking a lot. The house is gone. We're living with a friend of his. For a moment, I didn't feel anger or pity. I felt numb. I'm not here to ask for money, Lily said quickly. I swear, I don't know. I needed to see you. I still didn't speak. I didn't know what to say. She talks about you, Lily continued, all the time. Says she wishes she'd done things differently. Now that everything's falling apart, I said quietly. Lily didn't argue. She just nodded. I looked at the letter in my hand. It felt heavier than it should have. I need time. Of course, Lily said. I'll go. She walked away without another word. I didn't move for several minutes. That night, I stared at the envelope again, opened it. The handwriting was familiar, flowing cursive. I could almost hear her voice. Anna, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even know if I deserve to ask for it. But I'm sorry. I was blinded by fear, by pride, and by the comfort of using you as a safety net. It wasn't love, not real love, and I regret it every day. You were the only one who ever sacrificed, without expecting something in return. I wish I'd seen that sooner. Your father won't say it, but he's ashamed. Lily, she's young. She followed our example. I take responsibility for that. I don't know if you'll ever come back into our lives, but if you do, I'll be grateful. If not, I'll still love you from afar. Mom, I read it 3 times. Each pass-through dug deeper into me. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I simply folded the letter again and placed it in the drawer beside my bed. Weeks passed. Work consumed most of my attention, but now and then, I'd pass by a bakery that reminded me of the one Mom used to take us to on Saturdays, or I'd catch a scent of her perfume on someone in the elevator. The ghosts of what once was lingered everywhere. Then, one afternoon, I received a call. It was the hospital. They asked if I was in a Grafton. Yes. Your mother listed you as her emergency contact. She's been readmitted. It's serious. I sat in stunned silence. I'll be there, I said finally. I walked into the hospital and found her in room 408. She was thinner, paler. Tubes ran into her arms. Machines beeped steadily beside her. She opened her eyes when I entered. Anna, she whispered. I'm here. She reached for my hand. I let her hold it. I never meant to break you, she said. You didn't, I replied. You tried, but I'm stronger than you thought. A faint smile. You always were. We sat in silence, the kind that stretched between lifetimes. She slept shortly after. I left without saying goodbye. There was no need. I had already closed that chapter. That night, I told my boyfriend everything. From the beginning. Every betrayal. Every scar. He didn't offer cliches or advice. He just held me while I finally, quietly cried. I didn't attend the funeral. Mom passed away 2 weeks after my last visit to the hospital. The news came in a short message from Lily. No flourish. No request. Just a line. Mom died this morning. The funeral is Friday. I read the text, closed it, and stared at the wall. I wasn't numb. I wasn't overwhelmed. I was just still. For the first time in years, her absence didn't feel like a wound. It felt like the final door closing on a story I had already left behind. I didn't reply. I didn't dress in black. I didn't light a candle. I grieved her in my own way quietly. In the solitude of my home, with the letter she wrote to me clutched in my hands. A few days later, a formal envelope arrived. Legal-sized. Return address. State probate court. Inside was a copy of my mother's will. I braced myself, expecting either to be written out completely or saddled with some bitter, ironic parting gift. But as I skimmed the document, something unusual caught my eye. To my surprise, she had left everything to me, the house if it hadn't already been foreclosed, the remaining contents of her bank accounts minimal, all personal effects, and one sealed safety deposit box. Lily and my father weren't mentioned. Not even once. I stared at the papers for a long time. When I finally contacted the bank to arrange access to the safety deposit box, I didn't expect much. Old letters? Family heirlooms? Maybe even a stash of guilt-laden photos. What I found was a thick envelope with my name on it, and beneath it a USB drive. I opened the envelope first. Inside was another letter, longer than the last. She had written it 2 months before her stroke. Anna, if you're reading this, I've already left this world. And if you've chosen to open this box, then maybe you've decided to hear the full truth. I didn't just do wrong to you emotionally. I wronged you legally. When your grandfather passed, he left money for you, a trust fund totaling $150,000. It was meant to help you buy your first home. He set it up after your graduation, and it would have matured the year you turned 25. We never told you. Your father and I withdrew it early. We told the lawyer we were acting in your interest. He pushed back, but we forged your signature on a power of attorney document. We used it to pay off Lily's prep school tuition and our mortgage. I can't undo what we did, but I saved every receipt, every bank statement, every transfer record. It's all on the USB. Maybe for justice. Maybe just for you to know you weren't imagining things. I'm sorry for everything. Mommy didn't cry. Instead, I felt a slow heat rise in me. Not the fire of rage, not the burn of betrayal, but the cold, searing fury of knowing they hadn't just broken my heart, they had stolen my future. I plugged in the USB. She hadn't been lying, every detail was there. Email threads, financial statements, the scanned fake POA, even recorded voice memos, her confessions. She must have spent months gathering it. I contacted James. He read everything and said only one word. They're done. The legal process moved faster than I expected. Forgery of a legal document, fraud, misappropriation of a minor's trust. A civil suit followed. My father didn't even contest it. He tried to claim mental distress and pressure from my mother. Lily cried on the stand. The judge didn't care. The ruling was swift. Restitution ordered. Court fees paid. The judgment was entered public record. I didn't want their money. I wanted my name cleared. I wanted the world to know the truth. And now, it did. The lawsuit made local news. A headline that read, "Woman wins case after parents forge trust to fund sister's lifestyle." I didn't comment publicly. I didn't respond to reporters. But I did receive dozens of messages from strangers who said they understood, who had also been used, drained, and discarded by the people meant to love them. I started volunteering with a nonprofit that helped young adults break free from abusive family cycles, financial and emotional. I told my story at workshops, anonymously at first. Then one day, I didn't hide my name, Anna Grafton. And when I said it without shame. I married my boyfriend in a small ceremony at a coastal vineyard. Only friends were invited. My chosen family. People who had shown up when it mattered. People who have never used love as currency. We bought our first home together. A cottage-style place with wildflowers in the front yard and creaky wooden floors that reminded me I was alive. That I had built this. Years passed. My father faded from public view. Lily eventually reached out again, this time apologizing for real. I didn't reply. I didn't hate her. I just didn't know her anything anymore. Sometimes I wonder if things could have been different. But then I remembered the day they gave me a suitcase and told me to leave. I remember how they celebrated without me. And I remember how far I've come since then. Some betrayals are so deep. They change you. And sometimes that change is the best thing that ever happened to you. The suitcase they gave me was supposed to be the end of my story. Instead, it was the beginning.